And we're back with our guests all the way from the UK through Zoom. Kelly, our entrepreneur, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. How's everything?
Beautiful, beautiful. We have blue sky in Scotland, so that always makes me happy.
That's great. We would like to talk to you more about your new platform, Brand You Creator. So can you tell us more about it? Who is it for as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this month I just launched a mastermind groups, a platform for entrepreneurs that are looking to come together. So one of the things that I've always found in the past sort of 20 years of running my own business is that, you know, being an entrepreneur can be quite a lonely place and you don't always know who to go to or questions to ask. And the niche that I'm really in supporting entrepreneurs is helping them with their personal brand, their visibility, and really just getting them more exposure to maximize their impact and ultimately their income. So this platform brings together entrepreneurs from all over the world, where it's not just led by me, but it's also supported and you learn from other people within the community. And I think that's the real special piece, because there's only so much that one person can bring, but when you bring together a community, so many more lessons and exposure that actually creates.
100%. And do I need to have an idea for a business or even a business already set up for me to enter the course?
Yeah, so generally the people that are a part of the mastermind are those that are starting out and looking for that awareness or looking for that credibility, looking for the visibility, or they already have a business, but perhaps one area that they haven't focused on is their personal brand. And the thing is with that is a lot of people who do start a business get very involved in it and they sort of shy away from, it's not necessarily promoting themselves, but they shy away from their USP, which is ultimately why you started this, why you did this. And that's, one of the reasons why we're on here talking about this. This has been started because this is my journey, and it's the same with other entrepreneurs and their businesses. So it's two parts. It could be when they're first starting out, or it could be when they've got a business, but they're already ignored part of this sort of visibility piece, which is your personal brand.
That's very interesting. How important is it for someone to promote themselves, although they have a business that they're working on and they're promoting it?
Well, again, part of that piece is a lot of people think that I don't want my business to be about me, but ultimately people buy from people. Whenever you think about buying something, you like to know a little bit more about the story or the people behind it. And I think certainly the pandemic made this even more apparent. We're now just not competing with people in our local market, and I think that's evident today that we're speaking, and I'm in the UK and you're in the UAE. The world is a much more competitive space nowadays. So how are you going to stand out? And the way that you can stand out is your personal brand, because there's no one like you ever created, no one with your experiences, no one with your know-how, no one with your passion. And that's what's going to make a difference, whether you're an entrepreneur or even an employee. I've seen amazing results with clients who are already within an organization, but develop their personal brand within the organization because they want a pay rise, or they want to be more seen, or they want a better job, or they want to stand out amongst their colleagues. So it can have two parts, from the entrepreneurship piece, but also within an organization.
Agreed. And everyone is actually leaning towards that lately. And it's amazing to see that, as you said, not only entrepreneurs, but even individuals, employees. But again, there are still so many people who feel shy or don't want to promote themselves. Why is that? And how can we really fix it?
Do you know, it's something that I feel is quite, maybe quite niche to the Middle East. I think a lot of people, certainly Emiratis that I've dealt with, are very reluctant to be putting themselves out there. I think for a number of reasons: fear of showing off, judgment, what might the community say. So I think certainly that community, I found people have come to me and say, I can't do this because of what my family might say, or I can't do this because of this. So it's about finding a particular topic or discussions or a voice that you can be seen, but it's not in a way that it's like, hey, look at me, you know? So I think there's definitely a way around it. It's just sometimes you might have to be a little bit more subtle about the communication and the message that you put out there. And I think on a whole, people don't like boasting about themselves, and that's how people see it. You know, social media platforms might be seen as a popularity contest, and it's not. It's about how do you utilize that to educate, inspire, add value, rather than going, look at me. So I think it's just positioning it in a different way. And then when you start to position it in a different way, then you can see the value and the purpose of doing it rather than, you know, hey, I'm showing off.
And judgment, as you said, plays a huge role. And maybe a lot of it, as you said, like we can see it here in the Middle East, for instance, people are afraid to put themselves out there, whether it's personal brands or anything really else, even individuals, not only entrepreneurs. So how can we tackle that? Because the fear of judgment is there. I know a lot of people who want to post on their social media, but they're too scared what their colleagues will say about them or their friends or family.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of my main things that just springs to mind is, you know, especially if you run your own business, you know, are your friends or your colleagues paying your bills? No, they're not. So if this is going to be something that can actually help you and your business become more visible, there's got to be a line where you're like, they're not paying my bills. What I'm doing is, this is an opportunity for me to grow. So I think part and parcel, there is that piece of having that making that decision to say, do you know what, that they're not responsible. They're, you know, I'm not letting them be responsible for what it is that I'm doing. But I think then it goes back to, what is it that I'm communicating? And if you're choosing a message that is of value and something that people want to, if you're sharing stuff on social media platforms, if you're sharing a blog, if it's content that people read and are learning something from it. And I think that's the key piece, that it's like, oh, hey, look what I just had for breakfast, isn't really adding value to someone unless you're in the industry of, you know, food, and you're sharing sorry if that was a little bit loud there, early mornings, and collection. But unless you're in that industry, then that completely makes sense. So I think it's got to be something, and this is when I say when I'm working with clients, your content has either got to inspire, it's got to educate, or it's got to be of value that someone can actually utilize.
That's very important. It's not only entertaining, because a lot of people think that social media, it's only for entertainment. However, a lot of people take it as a source of news right now, and as you said, for education as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, of course, if you can get the educational piece in, if you can get the entertainment piece in with it being amusing, great. But the majority of us aren't comedians. True. You know, and I don't post funny content. It's not my wheelhouse. So I think unless that's, you know, unless you're in that space, stick with sharing knowledge that you know that people will find interesting.
How important is it to follow trends? Because now there are trends of like songs or even like challenges and things like that on social media. So how important is it?
I think I think they do. I think they really do play an important part. So I definitely think music can contribute. If you're talking about reels, for example, really does help with the visibility. And I think as well as following trends, even to the point is, if you're looking at Instagram as a platform for your personal brand, you know, it's very much moved away from photo content. It is video content. And one of the things that I'm struggling with is clients that are still stuck in the, I'm posting one picture and it's not performing. Well, we need to move with where the trends are going, which is video content. So this is what you need to look at now. So I do think it is important to look at where things are going, and then how can you repurpose content for your personal brand. So a lot of the video content that I have on Instagram is either repurposed on TikTok, not my primary platform, but it is repurposed there, or into YouTube Shorts. And that's visibility, it's eyes on what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're selling or who it is that you're helping. One of my clients, Actually, this is a really nice story. She actually lost her job earlier this year. We were working together on sort of a different project. She was a coach too. And she said, I really need to find a job and I'm really struggling. And I just feel like I'm getting rejected with the algorithms of my CV, blah, blah. And I said, we need to do something different. It's going to help your personal brand stand out. So I'd suggested that she actually buy a website. Her name's Barbara. So I suggested that she buy hirebarbara.com. She create that as her platform for website. The website then becomes a platform for a CV. So it was a downloadable CV. It was all nicely laid out with pictures. So you could get a snapshot about what Barbara was all about. Then she created a little very honest video that, she'd been receiving so many of these rejections and she's decided to do something different. And this video went onto LinkedIn and she had over 4.5 million views. It went viral. And then I'm happy to say that after sort of 6 weeks, I think it was, of interviews, she spent days replying to people that had spent time commenting on her posts, sharing her posts. She actually got a job last week. So that is proof in developing a personal brand and utilizing social media platforms, which in particular for her was LinkedIn, to actually get a job.
100%. There are a lot of people who hire right now who check your personal social media accounts when they're looking to hire you. And that shows you the power of social media at the moment and how important it is to have a personal brand regardless. You don't need to have a business or even to have a book or something like that in order to build your personal brand.
Absolutely. And when I work with clients, we start with a personal brand audit, and as part of that audit, we do a Google, what you are, what Google says you are. Because let's face it, loads of people do it, and people find that, oh well, I don't really know what people would find out about me. But I use a really simple analogy. Imagine you're going on a date, okay, and you don't know who that person is. You have their name. I would probably say about 99% of us would Google that person before they go on the date to find out what's out there about them. And when I say to people, so you've Googled this person, male or female, and there's nothing out there about them, what do you think?
Fishy.
And the answer, totally. Yeah. Oh, what is she hiding? What is he hiding? What's going on there? Why is there nothing out there? And people completely resonate with that in a dating capacity. So why don't people resonate in the same way when it's actually, hey, you're going to get a job, or, you're going to, someone's going to spend a lot of money with you to buy your product or service, and there's nothing out there about you. What does that say? And I think that's the really important piece. And people get a bit disheartened when they're like, oh, there's no images out there of me, or there's no, articles. Well, that's okay. Let's start there, because your personal brand isn't just going to happen overnight. Yeah. This is a case of it's constantly evolving as you evolve. So it's better to start now than not in a year's time, because you're going to be in the same place.
100%. And also, there's a saying that I always believe in: if you're not online, you don't exist, especially nowadays as businesses and things like that. Like, it's very important to have an online presence at the moment. But also, like, social media is great. It's very important. Personal branding, very, very important. But a big challenge that people face, which is consistency. So how can they stay consistent? Because it's very important, especially with the algorithm of social media as well.
Yeah, I think that comes down to poor planning. The majority of people, unless you're taking it seriously, look at social media in a business, even in a business capacity, is I have to do it. And it's like, oh, it's an extra chore and it's an extra effort. And I get clients to repurpose the way they think about it. Like, I'm so fortunate I get to promote my business. 20 years ago when I started my business, I didn't have any of these kind of things. It was very old school in terms of how you got exposure. So in some senses, business can be easier now, because, today you can start a business and put it out and people will get eyes to it in a very different way. But I definitely think the consistency piece. Yeah. So how to be more consistent. It is down to lack of planning, and people will wake up in the morning and go, what shall I post today? Yes. And it's just, if you want to maximize exposure and maximize quality, you've got a plan. Use scheduling platforms. Make sure you do shoots once a month, once every quarter, so that you've got quality content to post. So, I mean, I've done a podcast on this as well. Like, I batch my content as much as possible when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to Reels. I will spend a day or half a day, you know, a couple of times a month or once a month putting together things that I think will work. And then I work with my team, and then we've got stuff there rather than going, ooh, what shall I post today? I think that's the secret to consistency.
I definitely agree, especially that if you have quality of content throughout the week, even if something comes up, a trend or something, you have the peace of mind as well to think about it. You're not like running around because you have content for the whole week, for instance, sorted. Going back to the mastermind you have, how does it work? How can people apply to it?
So I have a call with everyone that I speak to beforehand to find out if they're right. Because I think, you know, as much as someone might think they're right, I always like to know where they are in their business journey and can I actually help them and can the community help them? So I think that's first and foremost. They have a call. The program is 1 year and the calls included in that are every single week. So you've got the opportunity to check in. And I think that really nicely fits in with that. How do people become more consistent? They have accountability.
Exactly. Yes.
And again, that's one piece that's sort of missed when you run your own business, because you're accountable for yourself. Like, who's telling you to get out of bed in the morning? You are, not your boss when you're doing your own thing anymore. So that accountability piece is key. So as part of the accountability, weekly calls, and we have an online course that people can watch a series of 25 videos that will help support them in building their personal brand. Plus there's the community. So you're very much in within a family of other people that are on the same journey as you, that want to not only just support you, but see you succeed.
Yeah, it's very, very important. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you so much for all the insights about personal branding.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you so much. شكرا لكل الناس اللي تابعتنا. أنا بشوفكم بكرة بنفس الموعد. نهاركم سعيد جميعا.